Welcome to episode 3 of Eerie Confessions. It was a serene summer afternoon, and the sun cast a warm golden glow on our quiet suburban neighborhood. My wife and I were sipping lemonade on our front porch when we first noticed the moving van pull up to the house next door. The new neighbors had arrived, bringing an air of mystery with them. A few weeks had passed since the new neighbors had settled in, and we hadn't had much interaction with them. Then, one sunny weekend, I was mowing my lawn, and I noticed the husband of the new neighbors struggling with his lawnmower. I rushed over to help, and as we were trying to get it started, the lawnmower unexpectedly roared to life, and he lost control, crashing into their fence. The accident had left a gaping hole in the new neighbor's fence, and the husband had suffered a few bruises and a twisted ankle. I felt responsible, and my wife suggested we cover the repair costs. As we discussed this with the new neighbors, they seemed surprised and grateful for our offer, but they declined, saying they would handle it themselves. A month later, we received an invitation from the new neighbors to a surprise party they were throwing for our neighborhood. They had transformed their backyard into a beautiful garden, and as we arrived, we were taken aback by their friendliness and generosity. It was evident they had warmed up to us. As the evening wore on and everyone enjoyed themselves, the new neighbor's wife approached me. She confessed that the lawnmower accident wasn't actually an accident at all. She had intentionally tampered with it, hoping to cause an incident that would lead to a conversation between our families. She believed it was the only way to break the ice but didn't expect such an accident. I was taken aback, but as we continued talking, she explained that they had recently moved here after a troubled past, and they were desperate for a fresh start and new friendships. They had resorted to this unconventional method out of sheer desperation. Since then, there hasn't been any such incident or accident. I'm glad nothing crazy has happened to date, but I can't help becoming skeptical and wary of them after that confession. Story 2. It was a gloomy, moonless night when I first met my neighbor, Mr. Ray. His house, shadowed by overgrown trees, loomed ominously next to mine. A sharp chill in the air made me shiver as I introduced myself to the tall, gaunt man. He had a peculiar glint in his eyes and a twitch in his smile, which instantly sent shivers down my spine. As I chatted with Mr. Ray, he asked me about my friend, Alex, who often visited me. It struck me as strange how interested he was in Alex, especially since I'd only just moved into the neighborhood. Over the next few weeks, I couldn't ignore the increasingly eerie signs of Mr. Ray's obsession with Alex. From peering through his blinds at Alex's comings and goings to leaving gifts at my doorstep, it became clear that something was deeply wrong with our neighbor. I confided in Alex about my growing concerns, and he brushed them off as mere paranoia, dismissing Mr. Ray as a harmless oddball. But I knew better. The dread I felt each time I saw Mr. Ray's twisted grin and piercing gaze was inescapable. One fateful night, I invited Alex over for a movie. As we settled in, the air grew thick with tension. It felt like Mr. Ray's gaze was drilling through the walls, directly into our living room. I kept the curtains closed, hoping to shield us from his watchful eyes. Suddenly, a bone-chilling sound echoed through the house, the soft jingling of keys at our front door. Our hearts raced as the doorknob turned, and the door creaked open. In that moment, I knew Mr. Ray had crossed the line, but Alex's skepticism remained. As the door inched open, a dim figure crept into the room. It was Mr. Ray, holding a knife glinting in the dim light. The room was bathed in a sickly green glow from the TV, casting eerie shadows across his face. In a trembling voice, Mr. Ray confessed his twisted obsession with Alex. He had been collecting mementos of Alex, from strands of his hair to his discarded belongings, creating a shrine in the basement. He explained his plan to keep Alex forever, even if it meant resorting to violence. Panic surged through us as we realized the danger we were in. In a desperate struggle, we managed to disarm Mr. Ray and escape his clutches. With adrenaline pumping through our veins, we locked ourselves in my bedroom and called the police, explaining the horrifying ordeal. The minutes that followed felt like an eternity, as we waited for the authorities to arrive. We listened to Mr. Ray's demented ranting and raving outside the door, vowing to get to Alex. Our only hope was that the police would arrive in time to prevent a bloodbath. The police arrived just in the nick of time, apprehending Mr. Ray and taking him away in handcuffs. As we looked out of the window, the flashing red and blue lights illuminated the sinister face of our neighbor, now a defeated monster. In the days that followed, Alex and I tried to recover from the trauma of that night. We never fully understood the depths of Mr. Ray's obsession. Story 3. The story begins in a dimly lit, eerie apartment complex. It's my new home, a place I hoped would bring a fresh start. The air is heavy with an unsettling silence, and the flickering hallway lights cast eerie shadows on the walls. I've heard strange whispers from the neighbors, but I dismissed them as mere gossip. One day, as I passed by the apartment next door, I noticed a girl about my age. She stays alone and seems to be equally isolated from the rest of the residents. Let's call her Emma, and we strike up a conversation in the hallway. To my surprise, she shares my passion for gaming. Our shared interest in gaming brings us closer. We decided to meet up and game together from time to time at my place. But Emma always leaves before 10 p.m., as if there's an unspoken curfew. My birthday is approaching, and I decide to invite Emma over for a special gaming session. The secret plan is to convince her to stay the night and confess my feelings for her. On the night of my birthday, I managed to persuade Emma to reluctantly stay past her usual curfew. As I gather my courage to confess my feelings, the room suddenly plunges into darkness. Whispers fill the air, and sinister shadows danced across the walls. Our hearts beat loudly in the obscurity. Soon, the shadows seem to come alive. They seem to start leaving the walls and reach out to us. We run into my room, fearing for our lives. Emma, while trembling, begins performing a mysterious ritual. Her hands move in deliberate, precise motions as she whispers incantations. As the sinister being attempts to attack us, Emma fights back with unwavering determination. As Emma's incantations become more desperate, she finally manages to dispel the presence. She turns to me, her face filled with relief, but then her expression darkened. "It has cursed you," she said. "The only way to break it is to send you back in time." Before I can react, darkness consumes me and I black out. When I wake up, I'm in my bed, and the memory of the night is vivid in my mind. My pulse races, and I check the date. It's my birthday again, as if the night's events never occurred. Later in the day, Emma arrives as promised, acting as if nothing had happened. I cautiously bring up the sinister events from the night before, but she laughs it off, thinking I'm trying to be funny with her. It felt like a waking nightmare, a nightmare that only I remembered. We continue with our birthday gaming session, but a feeling of dread lingers in the background. As the time approaches the curfew, I try to convince Emma to stay again, but this time, she firmly refuses. After that day, she still occasionally comes over for gaming sessions, but the connection we once had was gone. Her visits became less frequent, and I never got the chance to confess my feelings. Then, 2 months later, she suddenly moved away, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. As time passed, I couldn't help but wonder if the sinister events of that birthday night had been real or truly just a nightmare. and I can't help but wonder if Emma had truly saved me from an unimaginable curse, or if it was all a product of my twisted imagination. Story 4. I've lived next to the mysterious couple for years, but their relationship has always been a source of concern. Their heated arguments shatter the silence of the night, and it's impossible to ignore the piercing screams that echo through the walls. The husband, John, is a timid man, while his wife, Lisa, is always seemingly angry at him. I stand at my front door, hesitating, before peering through the peephole. The faint glow of the TV casts eerie shadows in the neighbor's living room. There's Lisa, pacing like a caged animal, her wild eyes filled with rage. John sits on the couch, a broken man. I can hear Lisa's venomous words, lashing at John like a whip. Her psychological torment sends a shiver down my spine. I know I shouldn't be spying, but I can't look away. The tension in their home is suffocating. Late one night, I hear a scream. It's Lisa, but this time, her scream is different, it's filled with sheer terror. I rush to the window, and my heart pounds as I see her silhouette fleeing from the house. As Lisa stumbles down the front steps, desperately seeking refuge, I can see the sheer panic in her body language. She stumbles and falls to the ground, her hands extended forward in a pleading gesture. Her face is twisted with fear, her eyes wide with terror, and her cries are not just angry outbursts but genuine cries for help. I can't stand by any longer. I dial 911, my hands trembling as I report the disturbance. The police arrive and separate John and Lisa. As they question them, I overhear some of their conversation. John confesses to years of abuse, detailing the psychological torment Lisa subjected him to. It aligns with my initial perception of the situation, but it's still extremely disturbing to hear it. Lisa, however, denies any wrongdoing. She insists that she's the victim, accusing John of deceit and manipulation. The officers are left baffled, uncertain who to believe. Over the following weeks, as the truth unravels, it becomes evident that Lisa had been manipulating John, making him believe he was the abusive one. She had fabricated incidents to cast herself as the victim, leading John to believe he was losing his mind. John's confession about years of abuse was genuine, and Lisa's facade of anger was designed to keep him under her control. This left everyone in the neighborhood, including me, stunned. Even though I knew John was the victim, I thought it was due to stress or petty arguments, and Lisa releases her anger on John in the form of violence. I never would have imagined domestic violence could be in this form.